Episode: Irie Bar on the Beach and Organized Crime in St. Lucia in the Caribbean. We headed out from our RV cargo plane, parked there on the beach in St. Lucia. Everyone wore similar style outfits that they did earlier on our island excursions. Katie wore her white sleeveless top and swim skirt combo outfit. Taylor wore her civilianized former military green cargo shorts and sleeveless crop top. And Sarah, resuming our expeditions as it were, joining in on our adventure, she wore bright white shorts and likewise a white crop top. Bob wore black pants, a muscle shirt, and of course his beret. For this adventure, I just wore black pants and a black shirt. And just like Johnny Cash, it was, of course, everything all black. Being prepared, we went early to Church Street, where the Irie Bar was located. The bar was actually a small, thick bamboo hut-like building that faced the ocean beachfront, and it was stocked with all sorts of liquor and booze. Honestly, it looked like, rather the vibe, was that you could just buy any kind of thing you wanted, any illicit substance, for sure. You could buy a lot more than just alcohol and tobacco. There were clearly personal entertainers for rent available. Female entertainers were available for hire. Male entertainers were likewise there for rent. It seemed an open-air selling of illicit entertainment of any flavor. It was all just normal, apparently, there at the Irie Bar on the beach. Well, while we waited for the night to grow darker and time to pass, Sarah wandered away from the team, not too far, but alone, at the shore, where the waves cyclically and almost rhythmically crashed and then withdrew back into the sea. Sarah looked out across the ocean under the starry night sky. She seemed to be in prayer, and so we just left her alone to be by herself with her thoughts and with her prayers. An electric E-Jeep disrupted the Irie Bar festivities. It just drove right up and onto the beach just across from the Irie Beach Bar itself. Out of the Jeep emerged two very tough, gruff men. One with dreadlocks and the other man with cornrows. Both had sour expressions. They marched to the front of the Irie Bar, and the dreadlocks man said aloud for anyone in earshot to hear, "Sterling Services!" That was it. Clearly, if you knew why they were there, you had better respond and answer. Well, Bob leaned in and said quietly, the muggers, they drove E-Jeeps when they mugged us, remember? And now we see these sterling silver bodyguards. They also drive electric E-Jeeps? Do you think it's a coincidence? It sure seems an unlikely coincidence to me. I think they may well be involved. Accomplices, at least, Bob cautioned. I could only lean over and wink and reply to Bob, "Well, it could be, I guess. We'll see." Taylor walked straight up to the man, and she said, "KT here." And the dreadlocks guy replied as the apparent speaker for the Sterling duo, and he asked, "You're Katie?" It was a little funny that Sterling Services guys apparently thought a woman named KT, or Katie, called them, versus the contact being the letter initials KT, representing the codified acronym of the Knights Templar. It was a bit ironic, I suppose, that we were both the letters KT and we had the person Katie right there on our team. Well, the dreadlocks speaker man nodded in acknowledgement. The speaker man spoke. "I am Martin. I am your primary. That means you talk and you deal with me. And this is Kieran. He will help me to do whatever I do for you. You understand? Everything goes through me. I am the man. Kieran, the cornrows man, he just smiled, almost creepily, and watched silently. Taylor cut to the chase and she asked, "Look, we were mugged on a Segway tour. Any chance you know anything about that?" The head bodyguard, Martin, as the self-proclaimed speaker man, the man, he answered, "Such things are not our business. We are in the moment. We don't worry about the past or the future." He emphasized, "Here on the island, we live and act in the moment. You know, island life and island time. No worries." Taylor was clearly dissatisfied with the man's answer, and she leaned aggressively into the man's space. And pressing for more information, she said, "Look, we paid you for your services. We'll call it even. Job done. If you can tell us where to find the guys that mugged us, or at least how and where we can get our stuff back. Answer me." Kieran, with his defining cornrows, looked suddenly very nervous. He shifted his weight left and right on his feet. His eyes began to shift left and right erratically. Little beads of sweat slowly began to be visible, forming on his forehead. Kieran was seemingly melting down right before us. Katie stepped forward towards Kieran, and she demanded, Do you, Kieran, know anything about our mugging?" Kieran shook his head, indicating that no, he did not know anything. It was unclear if Kieran was fluent in English or not to answer in words, even if he wanted to answer verbally. But his shaking his head was a very clear answer to Katie's question, regardless of his not being able to speak the words. Katie's palm tattoo flared and burned, signaling to her through her celestial truth-bearer tattoo that Kieran, the cornrows man, was deceiving her. It told her that Kieran was lying. Katie exclaimed, "You're lying! You know something!" She asked, "Were you there? Were you one of the muggers?" Martin glared at Kieran, and he commanded, "Do not answer them!" Martin looked at us and emphasized again, nervously, "I am the man! I am the man!" He looked at Taylor and firmly said, "I told you, everything goes through me, you got it?" I wondered, was Martin the man because he was the only one of them that could speak English? Or was he the man because he was the man in charge? Well, I guess it didn't matter because he was the man that we were to deal with. Taylor, never one to appreciate diplomacy or negotiation, leaned even closer into Martin's face and she whispered, "We know that Kieran knows something. Maybe you do too. We paid you. Answer us, please," she said with a very dark and threatening scowl, with apparent surprising restraint. Martin said with certainty, No one will answer that question. They will die if they did. Anyone answering questions about events like that, they will be vanished." Martin appeared to bite his tongue and seal his lips, as if somehow ensuring whatever he knew did not leak out or seep or otherwise slip and escape from his lips. Martin may have been right that no one would answer us, though, as indeed no one else answered Katie's questions either. A proverbial beach ball tumbleweed rolled by in silent tension, as not a single patron responded to Katie's query. Unexpectedly, Katie jumped up and walked straight to the bar's serving counter. She climbed up onto the Irie bar countertop, leaning over it, and she shouted loudly, ensuring that she got everyone's attention at the same time. And Katie asked in her loud, demanding voice, "Does anyone know anything about tourist Segway muggings?" The silence was there. Katie then made herself seem more approachable and easy to talk to by sitting down on the bar top. She scanned across the bar, looking at everyone, seated inside and outside the bar. She gazed into their eyes and she assessed them. She scanned those sitting on stools, those outside the bar and at its counter. She looked at the patrons that were seated at the few tables inside the little beach bar, and she assessed the people that were just hanging out nearby but within earshot of the beach. She called out again, "Seriously, no one, nobody knows anything about the Segway muggings? Does anyone know anything about our mugging?" Katie implored. Patrons all began shaking their heads, making sure Katie knew they answered but that they said nothing. Some mumbled a few variations on no, don't know, no, nothing, nah, etc. The patrons, one and all, denied any knowledge of any muggings. Katie scanned, looking intently at everyone, as she sought to determine if anyone was lying. Katie's scanning and assessing everyone was like a radar sweep, but she was scanning for lies, using her divine truth-bearer tattoo's power. Katie was using her LiDAR to scan the entire bar and to scan the nearby beach area. It worked. Katie's tattoo flared and it burned. It burned again right as she gazed upon a man that was standing nearby. Katie pointed at him and she said, You there! You know something!" The patron, with knowledge of the mugging, shocked and confused by Katie somehow knowing that he was lying, frantically panicked and answered without much thought, and he screamed and said, "It's Sterling! With Kieran there! It's Sterling Services!" The man pointed at Kieran, the cornrows bodyguard of the two bodyguards from Sterling Services. Kieran panicked, and Kieran ran towards the E-Jeep to escape. But Taylor swiftly and very deftly, she jumped, she lunged forward, and easily tripped Kieran to the side, and then rolled him onto his stomach. Taylor held Kieran's arm behind his back, as if ready to break it should he resist, and her knee was on Kieran's upper back and neck. She said, "No, you don't." Martin went for something in his pocket. Perhaps he was getting a knife or a gun to use against us. Bob took action too. He tackled Martin as Martin's hand was inside his pocket. Bob sat on top of Martin and held him down, while the rest of us circled them. Bob revealed what Martin was going for: a small hand radio that was in his pocket. It may not have been a weapon, but it was something that could very easily have brought great danger and threat to us just as much as any weapon might have. So Bob took the radio. During the kerfuffle, the knowledgeable patron from inside the bar nearby, he fled. Unfortunately, he managed to escape without any of us noticing. Taylor asked Kieran, "Okay, you tell us where to find the muggers, and tell us where to find our gear and stuff, or I will end you right here in front of everyone on the beach." Taylor growled as she pulled a knife out and she held it up against Kieran's throat. Martin, the speaker, Martin the man, spoke for Kieran. "His English is not that good. I answer. Rodney Bay Village, fancy place. That is home to Sterling Services. You need go there." Tourist robbery, it's our revenue bridge. It pays the bills, you know, between our real jobs as Sterling Services. Taylor threatened, okay, you both will take us to meet your senior manager for Sterling Services. If you saw our tote bag that you stole, then you know that we are armed with a lot more than just knives. Mess around with us and find out. Mafo, or like Fafo. You know what I'm saying? Understand? F around and find out. Taylor asked with hostile, very gritted teeth. Martin answered simply and honestly, it's not worth dying for an introduction. I said, well, I suggested actually, let's put GPS tracking transponders, our AirTag-like tracking pods on them. So, you know, we can geolocate them anywhere, anytime, anywhere in the world. And hey, let's put them on their e-jeeps too. Let's put them on Kieran, Martin, everybody, everything. Sarah wasted no time, and she pulled out 3 little GPS transponder tracking devices from the KT tote bag. She handed one to each Kieran and Martin, and she instructed them, keep these on you always, at all times, and put the third one in the trunk of your Jeep. Sarah warned, as God is my witness, if ever you do not have it, and I find you, I will kill you, without doubt, question, or pause. You will never see it coming. One day, just sudden blackness, dead and gone. Martin and Kieran nodded, and in terror they gulped in agreement. They could see that both Taylor and Sarah were extremely lethal and deadly serious. Martin provided the addresses and phone numbers for the offices of Sterling Services in Rodney Bay Village and for the home address of its senior manager, a man named Linus. You know, as cliche as this may sound, let me just say this. Oops, we did it again. Why do I say that? Why do I say, oops, we did it again? Well, while we were dealing with Kieran and Martin there at the Irie bar, we did not pay attention, we did not realize. But the many other tourists and natives that were present, that were there at or by the Irie bar on the beach, they had been filming us and the entire incident on their phone cameras. It was just like in New York. And again, we had to assume that the videos of so many people recording us would inevitably be uploaded to the internet, if not already. And of course, they would be perceived and watched out of context. It would look like we accosted and kidnapped and beat 2 for-hire bodyguards. And of course, the Irie bartender was there also, on the phone, apparently talking to the local police about a violent altercation at the bar. Evidently talking about us. Well, we did not intend to wait around for the police, or even more conflicts to befall us. And so we decided to get going, pronto, ASAP. We decided to visit Sterling Services senior manager Linus at his home tonight, right away, right now. Sarah, having taken the keys to Kieran and Martin's e-Jeep, decided she would drive their electric Jeep, with the 2 bodyguards inside, in tow, along with Taylor. Taylor took a Glock 45 pistol from the KT tote bag, and she made sure the bodyguards saw it. Taylor wanted them to be compliant and to not be stupid and try to escape or fight her. Bob drove our dilapidated airport delivery van with Katie and me inside. Bob looked to me and said surprisingly positively, which was, frankly, very unusual for him. And he said, "That went surprisingly well. It was almost too easy to get the information that we needed. Do you think, it might actually be a complex setup? Some kind of trap? I don't know.